All right. Well, welcome everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good lunchtime, depending on where you're from. It looks like we have an awesome group from West Coast, East Coast, Central, everywhere. So thanks for joining. We're super excited that you're here, and we have an awesome agenda today. I do want to call out just real quick on the left, the slide, the chat. So utilize the chat. Make sure you select all attendees. That can be commentary throughout the presentations, anything that you want to add. If you have specific questions for our presenters today or just generic questions, please do leverage the Q&A. That would be in the middle of your screen at the bottom, and we will address those at the end of each presentation. And if we don't get to certain questions, we will follow up in an email. So this is our brief agenda. We're just going to go through a couple of intro slides, and then we will pass it off over to Sam over at Grand Rapids Public Schools. And then we'll take questions at the end of his presentation. And then Bill Dwyer from CCS, one of our fantastic partners in K-12, will be finishing us out. And at the end, we'll talk about some announcements, next steps, resources, all of that good stuff. So, and a reminder, this is being recorded. So this is for those of you that maybe haven't joined before, I do see a lot of people that have joined our last couple, so thanks for showing up. But for those of you that haven't been on one of these before, this is actually our third virtual national K-12 Tableau user group. And the intention here is to help all of you see what other people are doing in the space. So getting different ideas, sharing best practices, building a community between all of the K-12 districts, private, public charters that are using Tableau out there. So at the end, we'll kind of talk about different ways for you to communicate with each other, connect with each other outside of the Tableau user group. But I also want to call out, if you wanted to start a regional K-12 tug specific to your community instead of just nationally, then definitely reach out to Stephanie or Thomas. We have a couple throughout the country already and would love to help you spark one. So who we are, I'm Cassidy Macias. I am a Tableau employee, Salesforce. I am the director of our education business covering K-12 and high ed. I've been at Tableau about 5 years, and I'm a former teacher, educator, and been working with K-12, I guess, for about 15 years now. So good to meet you all. Happy to be here. Excited to see what we got. And I'm going to pass it over to Stephanie.
Hello, everyone. I'm Stephanie Henry, a manager with the business analytics practice at Plant Moran. The firm has been a partner with Tableau for over 7 years, and I've personally been with the firm for 3.5. I'm based out of Denver, Colorado. Prior to joining the firm, I was with a large school district here in Colorado for just shy of 16 years. So you do the math. I've been in data analytics for quite some time. At the firm, we support clients all over the country leverage their data to tell a story by getting the people, processes, and technology aligned. We help ensure content is provided to the data and report consumers in a timely, reliable, and easy format, which is why you all love Tableau just as I do. The foundation we help build is around strategy and governance, roles, responsibilities, infrastructures, tools, and scaling, much aligned to that Tableau blueprint. I've been a fan of Tableau for over 9 years and support the community by leading 3 different user groups, 2 at that state level, which Cassidy was plugging to get some more on board, and then this national group as well. So my role within this group is to help facilitate this community grow not only their skill set, but help connect among your peers throughout this group. So I'm going to now pass it over to my co-lead, Thomas.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephanie. Yep. So Thomas Price. I'm a senior consultant at Slalom in the data and analytics practice. We work with a variety of different organizations, including K-12 and higher ed. A lot of my experience in the past actually comes from working at both the local level in Atlanta for a K-12 school district, as well as working for the state in terms of the charter school sides of things. A lot of what I like to bring to this is just the ability to connect a lot of people that may not be familiar with this community. And I think that it provides a lot of great ideas. I know I've taken ideas from this community whenever I worked for the school district and implemented them in our practices. So I think this is just a fantastic place for sharing all sorts of ideas and best practices. And so to start us out with that today, I'm really, really happy to introduce our first presenter. That's going to be Sam Mickens. He is from the Grand Rapids Public School System, and he's going to be talking a lot about the Tableau to visualize data within data practices they've implemented at their school district. So Sam, I transition it over to you.
Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Thanks for the wonderful introduction. My name is Sam Mickens Jr. I am a solutions architect at Grand Rapids Public Schools. I'm a part of a wonderful team of people who do what we have to do to get stuff done. I'm not a title guy. My big team, we don't really care about titles. We like to figure out the best way to get things done. And Tableau has been a wonderful toolkit, tool that we use to visualize and share our data. I'm gonna take a couple of minutes to give you an introduction about who we are as a district and kind of walk through some of the challenges and how we overcame some of the challenges with the use of Tableau, and leave some time at the end for any questions. All right, first of all, does everybody like my troll? Everybody, thumbs up, thumbs down. All right.
We love it, Sam.
All right, thank you. So can everybody see my screen? We're good. All right. So who we are, at Grand Rapids, we have about 14,000 students district-wide. We're composed of over 2,300 staff members spread across 50 different buildings. We support over 200 different languages. 84% of our students qualify for free and reduced lunch. And about 19% of our students district-wide have an IEP or receive some form of special ed services. With all that being said, we have a lot of data. We have a lot of different components, and our student information system that we use is Synergy. And like with any system, a lot of systems have their pros and cons, and with Synergy, it does a great job of taking in data and letting us know about our students and the information that we have, that we possess inside of our district, and the things that come along with being a K-12 school district. One of the challenges or the things that Synergy didn't do as well when we started this process was presenting data in a facet that we can quickly make sense of things and make decisions or whatnot. So one of the key things was, how do we visualize our data or get data in the hands of people so they can do what they need to do with it in less time aggregating, breaking it down, and trying to get it in a format where others can use. So some of the problems that we had when we were going over visualizing our data was we just had way too many spreadsheets. Everybody had a spreadsheet. And everybody's spreadsheet was different, because once we sent a spreadsheet out or once we got a data request, one school was able to do one thing, one set of issues with it. Another person was able to do another set of issues with it. The data in the spreadsheets were local to the worksheets. Pivot charts and tables were not easily updated. And once you have a spreadsheet or you put one out there, the information is it's old is the moment it gets out there. There was no real-time data. We were able to make use of the data, and because we have a lot of talented people in our district, and we wanted to spend more time using the talents of our district to solve problems, as opposed to getting data to where it looked a certain way. with that, with all of the spreadsheets that we had, a lot of people didn't have the same systems, spread across, 2,300 employees. And so some things didn't necessarily work all the time, across the multiple platforms and versions of Excel that we had. And last but not least, everyone hated Excel. Everyone hated Excel. There may be one or two people in the buildings who, were comfortable enough to use it, create functions and blah, 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 and run off on their own, but we needed to have a different solution. So we were presented with a couple different options. Develop a custom solution out the box, or Power BI as a solution in Tableau. Before I get into why we picked Tableau, I wanted to kind of lay out some of our dashboarding needs that we had before we kind of picked the solution that we decided to go with. We needed a certain type of filters. Inside of Excel, as we all know, you can just set a filter and it just doesn't look pretty. So we knew that we needed to be able to filter no matter what the dashboard we need, by school, by grade level, by IEP, by PEB, special ed services, locations, have a date range, school years. We needed our dashboards, whatever dashboard it is, to let us know if there were a certain amount of missing days. We wanted a grade level chart, whether it was multiple occurrences. When you're looking at incidents, what was the violation, and also to chart the different facets of special education. One of the key things, the very key needs that we needed is we needed some type of role level security. And what I mean by that is different permissions for different people. Classrooms, we need to have a classroom view. If you were in a building administrator, you need to have a building view. If you were a district view, you need to have a different level view. And so everyone wouldn't have the same permissions. And as you can see, if you had a spreadsheet with all this information, you always had to do something in order to make that happen. So one of the reasons that we went over, we went to Tableau. Excuse me, I have an arrow on my side, but it was just user-friendly access. The customer support was absolutely second to none during the demo process. I called over to the Tableau team. I had a 30-day trial. I was able to have full access to the product. No features were left behind, or no features were filtered out. And I got to play with them and actually develop some reports connected to our database, our real database, which is, I mentioned earlier that we use Synergy, but it's Microsoft SQL Server's Power and Synergy. So I was able to connect to the actual database in real time and present reports and get a kind of look and feel of the system. And I was able to call customer support when I had a question, like I was actually using the product, like I was actually a customer. And at the end of the 30 days, we weren't ready to move forward yet. We still have some other questions. They had no problem with extending me to another 30 days, and it ended up being 90 days using the product. And I was working on it, building dashboards, answering questions from our team, and making sure that this is a product that we want to use. And Tableau did a wonderful job of supporting us like we were a customer, an actual customer during the demo process. And that still hadn't changed since we decided to switch over to the online version. A couple of other things that we had that were important to us, and that was important that we learned when we transitioned over to Tableau, is we need to give the access to people in many ways as possible. So we went with the online version, and it was a web-based access from any browser. It automatically came with an app. We did not have to do anything. Once we built the dashboards, once we published them and gave people our permissions, everything that was available online by your role, your user group, was available in the app. It also came with automated reporting, which means that, hey, you can set up a report to, once you have a dashboard, to automatically email you once some condition occurs. So for instance, let's just say if you had, if attendance reached a certain level, if that trigger hit, it would automatically send you an email or ping to your devices where you can log on, get the information as a PDF. You can click in the PDF and you can either open it up on your smartphone in an app or in any web browser. And that was just a major hit, because if you're anything like me, I'm always on the go and I'm looking for other ways to access data and do things quickly. Some other features were calculated fields and context filtering. And what those are is, with the data that we have, we might need to generate more data, break down a date, use a date in different formats than the ways it's stored inside of the database. And those calculated fields made it very easy to do so, very, very easy. Once you kind of got the hang of how to develop a function, you can use it across multiple dashboards. And also context filtering was a key. So if you're responsible for multiple buildings, and if you wanted to select the building and you select that school, the entire dashboard would transform just to the building that you, that you're responsible for. And I'll walk through that in the next couple of moments. Also, the ability to add and access to the dashboards from any device, whether it's iOS or Windows. I'll tell you a quick story before I jump into this demo. Is one day we were doing a presentation and I had something that wasn't charting right, and I got a call from our superintendent, and I was actually driving. I was able to pull over and easily make a change for my iPhone, and it fixed the dashboard right there in real time. So with that being said, I'm going to take a couple of minutes and give you some use cases on how our building admin would use one of the dashboards. I'm going to show you a couple of them that we developed and leave time for any questions. So right here, this is our version. I mean, this is actually Tableau Online, and I'm just showing a couple of dashboards that we have right now. No, the data is kind of scrubbed, so it's not accurate data that reflects our district. It's just for the purpose of this demo. But these are the dashboards that we built in-house and that we use. So I'm going to go over first. This is our student suspension or discipline dashboard. And give it 1 second to load. And one of the key things that we decided when we were building our dashboards out is all of our dashboards had to have a certain look and certain feel. At the top, the filters that were important in Excel were school, grade level, PB. I kind of went over those on the slide. And we had all of these at the top, no matter what dashboard that we're building out. And throughout the layout, the different options or panes that we have, like unique students, PEB by percentage. If a student was suspended today, summertime, no one's in school, so that information wouldn't show. What's going on in our schools, violations. We knew when we were developing this dashboard, these are the charts that we're gonna have. And the only things that is on this chart are related to suspensions, nothing else. We wanted to have every question that we needed to break down right here on the dashboard. And how, one of the cool things about Tableau is, let's just say, hey, if I'm going to check out a school and we have over 50 buildings, I could check out, I'm just going to pick a high school. I can click on a high school and I can click apply. And if you wait a couple of seconds, you notice that all of the data, the numbers change to now represent just this high school. So I could, if I was trying to track and say, hey, incidents or suspensions are high, how can I see what's going on in the district? I can see, if I look at, by PB, African Americans in 2017 and 18, that 87% of the students that were suspended were, their PEB were African American. Or if I wanted to see, hey, what violations were major, I can look and I can see that disruptive behavior, blah, blah, blah. Every one of the categories that are inside our student information system is represented right here in the graph. And the one thing about Tableau that I love so much, if you hover over one of those incidents or one of whatever, it gives you more information depending on what information that you want to present. So right here, if I'm looking at grade level, I can see the grade level charts for the high school is 9 through 12. So if I hover over it, it'll give us some more information. And right here, as you can see, it also breaks down by violation. Now, right now it's by violation, but that's what was important to us by grade level to help us quickly get to the nuts and bolts of what's behind the scenes. Another cool thing about the charts and the data, if I want to get more specific, so if I'm looking at the 19-20 school year or 20 school year, if I click right here, the grade level, 12th grade, and I'm looking at those 13 suspensions, the chart reflects even more about those 13 incidents. If I click out again, the context explains. So what we see right now is a lot of standard bar charts, and here's a line chart representing the same thing, 3 or 4 years of suspensions based off of the context that I clicked earlier. And I can get down into the details. And one of the things that me as a developer that I love the best is, you see how I'm hovering over the different charts and I'm getting some information based on the information that, or the chart that I looked at. So right here, this is the day of the week. This is showing based off the context, Monday through Friday. It's looking like Thursday is one of the highest days of the week of suspensions for the school year. But you know what? I want to put a little bit more information right there. I can easily edit right here on the fly. If I click edit inside of the browser, I don't need any special equipment. I know Tableau has different products that are desktop, that are online, but the online version worked better for us because I was able to quickly get things up without purchasing a bunch of equipment. I could go directly to this chart. I can edit this window. I can say, hey, you know what? I want to add a different tip. And so if I click right here into tooltips and I position my cursor, I can add one of the different sheets. Let's just say if I want to say, I want to add enrollment by PEB as a mouse over. And if I put my mouse right, put something just like it and get a better chart. And I click. Give it a couple of seconds, just a little internet lag. I'm able to automatically update a chart in real time. And I can do this from pretty much anywhere in the world as long as I have a browser. Also, just depends on your internet speed. Tableau is really, really quick. So that information was saved. Now, if I actually go back to the workbook, and I'm doing this from how a building admin would view and try to get to some information. If I hover over one of my charts again, you can see now that graph is up. That could have been any graph or any chart or any page that I've created, but just how quickly I just want to show you how quickly I can make an edit using Tableau to get to the context of the data based on whatever issue that I was trying to solve. I want to go through one more example and I want to leave time for questions based on anything or anything that I've went over so far, or some questions that you may have that I haven't went over. One of our favorite dashboards that we've developed in-house is a chronic absenteeism dashboard. And I want to show you the power behind working in contexts and coming up with the correct filters that will give you the information on our data. Let's just say if I'm a central office or a building admin, and I want to look to say, hey, how do we reduce chronic absenteeism in our district? Or what do I need to focus on right now? I told you our numbers for free and reduced lunch were like at 84%, right? The information is all coming from our system in real time. I just have the 2021 school year clicked for the sake of this example, but let's say if I want to just check right now, if I want to look at the students who qualify for free and reduced lunch, just a bird's eye view. If I'm looking at the district level overall, you can kind of see these numbers. But let's just say if I want to now look at non-free and reduced lunch, you see how that information changes drastically. So if I was looking to improve chronic absenteeism from severely chronic to satisfactory, I see automatically, just with the click of a button, I should probably spend most of my time focusing on the kids who qualify for free and reduced lunch. That's just what the data tells me as a glance. And the same thing, if I wanted to go by and look for schools, or if I wanted to compare multiple years and put those together, all on the fly. I could write a function or a field to in which we do. So right now you can see, as I'm comparing dates for the different grade levels over the years, I can see the trends from side by side, and we don't have to do anything because we're connected directly to the data source. A couple of best practices before I open it up for questions or whenever you're working and you're building a dashboard out, only put information relevant to the dashboard or to the dashboard that you're building. If you're working with attendance, use attendance information. If you're working with suspensions, use suspension information, and you work with your team to kind of hash out the questions or the filters or the things that are important for you, and then build the different charts, whether they're bar charts, pie charts, line charts, whether they're graph, that you can that you want to speak to, because it will help you get down and solve the solution that much quicker. One thing that I did miss real quick is that I wanted to show, and I'll just click on one of these. And this is, again, just one of our suspension dashboards. A good feature. Some people still like to use Excel, and some people want spreadsheets in their hand. So if I'm clicking on some data somewhere and I'm just clicking a column randomly, depending on your license level, I can still automatically get a CVS file of whatever the data is, and I can download it right to the computer. So what you do is, the power of Tableau is you get to chart up, you get to visualize real quick, you get to drill down real quick, you have awesome customer support, and you also can get data in its native form in a raw Excel file, or export it in a different file that means something, or to satisfy your need. And they're not paying me to say this. I've worked with different school groups, and we've kind of came up and learned to piggyback from each other. And these solutions kind of help us visualize data in a very powerful way. And I'll turn it back to my colleague or open up the floor for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Sam. Really quick reminder, we had an issue with some of the invites. So those who joined a little bit late, just as a reminder, the session is recorded. So if, just to kind of let you know. So we have a series of questions that have been coming in for Sam. So I'm going to go ahead and read through these. The first one that came through was, I am interested in hearing more details about how you are achieving row level security. And do you have that built in? And at a high level, can you kind of talk about how you're applying that with Synergy?
Yes. So you said applying it with Synergy or applying it with Tableau?
Well, Tableau, but based on your data, like how are you making the associations for principals or teachers?
Okay, so there are two different ways. So one thing is Tableau easily plugs in with Azure. And if you're using Microsoft Azure, you have row level security in Synergy or your CMS, you can pass those rows over. But the good and bad about that is when you're looking at row level security is sometimes people belong to multiple groups and those groups aren't automatically defined. So a workaround that I found out is, and I can kind of show you, is if I go to right here inside of our user management portal, can you still, everyone still see my screen?
Yep.
If I go into users and I go into groups, I've defined user groups, Alger Middle School, building level user, dashboard user, district level users. And I gave those users different permissions. And under the dashboard, I can edit permissions here at the fly by saying, hey, all users get to do such and such. You can see right here, our district administrators have different access. One of our administrators who helps me works with dashboards, he has different level of access. And I can easily click a check and say, hey, can a user download full data like the Excel spreadsheet? Can they filter data? Are they able to download pictures and reports just at the click of a button?
Okay, so we'll keep moving on, and maybe we can have a different connecting point with some different peer groups regarding a little bit more detail on that. But there's a lot of great questions, and I want to honor some of these other ones. So there's a couple questions that came in around data. And so one of them is, how is your data getting updated? And then another similar one is, are these reports live data from your Synergy student information system?
Good questions. So one of the important, to answer both of them, one of the important things to us is we want to work with data and as accurate or as real time as possible. So what we did is well, let me back up. Synergy supports, Tableau supports multiple data connections. You can deal with a data extract. And what that is you're just extracting data, you'll upload it, and the data is there, but you have to continually to upload the data. And in some cases, that's all you need. And in a lot of cases, if you can work with an asterisk, the processing time is a lot faster because it's not checking for a real-time connection. So in some dashboards, and we don't have all our dashboards here, like our testing dashboards, I don't have to query a database in real time every time. If the data comes out when it comes out, I upload it or a team uploads it, and we can go ahead and we can connect to that. But with Synergy, since it's running off SQL Server, I was able to connect directly to SQL Server with a couple of steps and query that information real time. Not only SQL Server, we have some Access databases, we have different flavors of Oracle, we have Lynda. No matter the database, there's a little bit of technical work, but if you can follow some steps and you have a good team, once you connect to the data, you can get the data set in real time. Extract data also always processes faster, but the live data is our cup of tea whenever possible. And for the reports that I demoed today, those are all in real time. So when you saw the lag a little bit, it was probably processing in real time, even though the data is a little muddy for the sake of this presentation.
I think we are close to time on some of your questions. So I'm going to have Sam respond to, I think there's 5 or 6 questions still left out there, but I want to make sure that we give our next presenter his time to present. So I'm going to go ahead and Sam, you can go ahead and stop sharing your screen, and I'll have you respond to the questions in the Q&A box from your peers who have some great questions for you. I'm going to now transition it over to Bill Dwyer. He's going to talk about hybrid learning and leveraging Infinite Campus and Tableau. So Bill, go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, Stephanie. Let me see if I can get my screen appropriately shared here. How am I looking? Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, good. Thank you for joining us, everybody. I'm going to just go through who we are. I want to give a little bit of background on what I'm referring to when I talk about hybrid learning, just because to kind of level set us, so we're all kind of on the same page there. And then I'm going to show one dashboard that we use to assist setup. And I apologize, you see that custom SQL query pop up? My SQL Management Studio, every once in a while, even though I've quit it, it still thinks it's running and it pops up a little hover hint. And then I'm going to show you some more in-depth work on dashboards that have kind of evolved out of necessity. So a little bit about us. We are an exclusive channel partner for Infinite Campus. Okay, so we have Infinite Campus for the Northeast section of the country, and we offer our Tableau solution to the entire country. Again, 2 districts using Infinite Campus. We have been a Tableau partner since 2010, and I've been using Tableau since then. I think I started on Tableau version 4 or 5. And our solution, we embed the Tableau dashboards right into the Infinite Campus interface. So you'll see that when I show it. We have districts using the product from 100 students to 125,000 students. So scalability is very important in everything we do, and general applicability. About me, like I say here, I'm a nerd and proud of it. I have a math degree from Providence College, bachelor's. I have a bachelor's in mechanical engineering from Washington University in St. Louis. I have my master's in aeronautics and astronautics from MIT. So yes, I am actually a rocket scientist. Came out of school and started doing computational fluid dynamics. Any of you who can see my screen, oh, you know what? I have the background turned on. You can see popping in and out some data analysis we were doing in the defense industry. This was before Tableau even existed, but it was the first approach at analyzing really large data sets. And also, I am a sitting member of my local Board of Education. We're a 4,500 student school district on Long Island in New York, and I have been on the board for about 11 years. So I get to kind of see this from both sides of the education spectrum. About hybrid learning environments. So what we're really talking about is those school districts that went back to school with limited attendance. Some kids going in, some kids not. And so you're generally, when looking at that, now our larger urban districts were generally all remote for the whole year. But the smaller districts, and again, it was up to each of them, were generally hybrid, which meant you had a cohort of students that were always virtual. You had a cohort that physically attended on alternate days. And then you also had those that physically attended every day. Those would generally be students that were receiving special services, had IEPs, things like that. And our SIS Infinite Campus created blended learning groups to assist in managing this. And what it was basically every student gets assigned to a group, and then that group gets overlaid on a regular standard school schedule to denote those days that the student was attending virtually. So again, the SIS assumes that everyone is there at school every day and attendance reflects that. And then the blended learning groups overlaid to say, nope, on these days, the student's actually in school, but from home. So that's when you talk about blended learning groups, that's what I'm talking about. Where is our data coming from? Again, because most of the hybrid learning functionality was in the SIS, we're querying directly from the SIS's database, which is a Microsoft SQL Server. However, as we know, with the flexibility of Tableau, that really isn't a requirement. And if data were scattered amongst multiple data sources, the product would have no issue with that. The question I saw also about, is it live or replicated data? Most of our clients run a nightly replication database where every night their full production database gets replicated to a snapshot and then gets optimized, where a lot of views get flattened into tables and additional indexes get built for data querying. So most of these would be pointing at that data warehouse, but if required, they could also be pointed right at the live production database, because it is the same schema. The only problem is, you got to be judicious about that, because now you're competing for compute resources with all of your interactive users of the SIS. So I'm going to highlight a few that we built to assist in the setup of these blended learning groups. I'll show you one, the daily group pies, which allows for basically seeing on a daily basis by school how many students are actually virtual, okay? And then we also have some that looked at when you set up these blended learning groups, the idea is that all students in a household, regardless of which of your schools they attend, should either be going to school on the same days or staying home to limit exposure. And so we have a dashboard that shows that. And then we actually had a school district who built and contributed basically this dashboard to our library and made it available to all of our other districts that actually shows the impact on how many students show up in front of a teacher by course and section based upon those blended learning groups. So I'm going to jump in and show you our daily group pies. I'm going to pull a browser over here. This Infinite Campus. The only thing to note is that you select what school you are looking at here, okay, and what school year. And everything here is driven by tool rights, just like every other SIS. And so I'm going to go to our daily group pies, and this is our implementation of Tableau within the product. I am in as a super administrator, so I have rights to everything. So you're going to see a lot of selections. And when I select it, it will now render the daily group pies for Harrison High, because that is the school I have selected. And so you can see here that it allows for putting in a date range. This goes 7/20. Let me just put that to 6/1 so I can give you a month of data. And you can see that on a daily basis, because student membership can actually vary day to day. One of the things that we saw is districts would build like a quarantine blended learning group. So for students that had to go home because they were quarantined, they would be in that group for 10 to 14 days, and then they would come out. And so this dashboard looks on a daily basis at the group membership and whether they are in or out. And you can see that the orange is always virtual. And so there are 61 students basically that are always virtual. And then you can see this school has an A-B rotation by the teal and red. Again, it's just a nice quick visual to let them see. What most of our districts ended up doing was they had A-day, B-days, where if you were coming in, you would be in like Monday, Tuesday. Then everyone would be home on Wednesday so they could clean the schools. And then the B's would be in Thursday, Friday. Things, different rotations like that. So districts, as simple as this is, really liked it, because this new concept, again, at the beginning of the school year, we had this ready and no one was really used to or comfortable with it. So that is how we went about that. And then I'm not going to take the time to run you through, wait, one more click. The blended learning groups across households. What it allowed for is it would look across all schools, and then it would list with a filter available here, households with students in more than one blended learning group. And when you selected a household, it would show you all of the students, the schools, and their blended learning groups. So this again allowed districts to identify those where they might have accidentally put the kid in opposite blended learning groups to help with the proper setup. And then the blend and learn, this is the dashboard that was built by one of our client districts that was kind enough to share it with everyone. Again, for the selected calendar, it pulls up courses and sections And it shows you actually the teacher and the section number. And then for your virtual learning groups, the number of students in each virtual learning group. So, this section has 18 students. 3 are in the B, 6 are in the A, 7 are always in school. So teachers can either have 13 students in front of them or 10 students in front of them, things like that. And this was very useful, and we were very grateful that one of our client districts built and shared this with everyone. There's also a version which shows special ed breakout, so you can see the balance of students that might be receiving additional services as well. So that was that's an example of some of the dashboards that we built right up front. And I'm just looking at the clock. What do I have until 3:10, something like that? 3 o'clock, 3:10, what do we get? 3:05?
You're probably fine with around 3:10, Bill.
Okay, thanks, Stephanie. So then we jumped in, and once we started the school year, and we had all our kiddies in the school, they started getting sick, or they started going home not feeling well. And so one of the things that needed to be done was contact tracing. Who was the student in contact with? Who were they close to? So that data could be either reported to the parents, or in many states reported to the local Department of Health, whether it's a town, county, or state Department of Health. And so and school districts were spending a ton of time doing this, because now you have to take the student, you have to look through their schedule, you got to see all the other students that were there. You have to look at what students actually showed up on that day. And it was a major undertaking. And so we built a student contact tracing dashboard. We said, well, we know everyone's schedules, we know the attendance. So this is actually a dashboard that you would run against the live production database. And so if I come over here and I'll bring it up in a site, I'll go to student contact tracing, and it will render the dashboard. And you can put in the date range that the student was in school and suspected positive or whatnot. And then you simply enter a student number. And in this case, this is all run using custom SQL queries on the back end, just because you're ripping through so much data, and the database is actually designed and optimized for pulling individual student data of this nature. We've written custom SQL queries that take a whole bunch of arguments to really run, as you can see, a very fast query. And what it did was it brought up the target student, okay? This is a demo database, so these are all fake students. The dates. We included now in this SIS, a student is assumed in attendance, present, unless they have an attendance code. So it's going to pull up anyone with null attendance codes, but at the same time, it's looking at the blended learning groups. And if a student in that section was in a blended learning group that was to be virtual that day, it doesn't include the student. But we included this filter because physically present students may have been tardy, which means they would have an attendance code, but they were actually physically there. So this allows you to turn on tardy codes or other codes that districts may use where the student is still physically present. We also, of course, after you roll this out, the first time you roll it out, one of the districts says, oh, we schedule multiple sections into the same room in the same period. The default logic of this looked at all of the students scheduled into the same section. But in the case where maybe, let's say you have like some of your specials, like your video arts or something, where you have a sequence of course 1, 2, 3, and 4, they may schedule 1 and 2 into the same room in the same period, but they're actually run as separate sections. So this actually, the query has logic built in to, instead of just search the sections, actually looks at the room and the period on the date, and then looks at all the sections in there to pull that. It's turned off by default because it is a more expensive query and it takes longer to run. The ability to filter out certain courses. So like a lot of districts will schedule an advisory period where the student doesn't actually show up, but they're there to meet with the counselor if they need to or something like that. So you can turn courses off. And then if there is bus data in the system, it will also look at that. So what do we have here? If you look here, it has the number of periods that the students were together. and it shows you in the Viz in tooltip, the course, the section, and the number of times they were together, okay? I can also see the teachers and the number of times they were together, and the bus data as well, if you have it. And it says the bus number and the date, okay? Now you may wonder, what's the bubble plot doing over here? And you know, it's funny, when I developed this with our bigger demo data set, it actually made a nice circular ball. So I actually tried to use a color scheme that looked like a COVID molecule cell that you see all the time, but on the smaller ones, it kind of falls apart. This is actually to take advantage of one element of our integration with the SIS, because now that you have this list of students, really the goal is to use that data to communicate out to students, their parents, and or communicate to your local Department of Health. So this is just a simple way to grab all of the students. And if I highlight and grab all of the data points, you'll see that at the top, I got a transfer to ad hoc button. What is that? That's simply this SIS's manner of storing arbitrary queries of students. This SIS has a built-in messenger product where it can send emails, it can make phone calls. So hit transfer to ad hoc, it says 17 students, do you want to send it? If I said yes, it would actually store it and show you the list of students over here. Basically Tableau sending data back to the SIS. Also though, many of our clients use a third-party dialer, third-party emailer, or they needed a CSV file to upload to the local department, county health. And so one of the things that we did was we made simply a one-click CSV download, right? If you simply click on the blue square down here, you can see the student and you can see guardians. This is really here just to make the blue square available. Because if you look, I did a dirty little trick. There's a whole lot of fields in here, but they're white on white, so you don't really see them, because all I really wanted to do was make the blue square available so that when you click on it, we've created a dashboard action that actually downloads the CSV file directly from that little from that worksheet. And you can see my browser downloaded it. And if I open it, you can see the list of students, the number of periods they were together. If a student has multiple guardians listed, I have the student multiple times and the guardian and all the contact information on them. So this is something that our districts really, really appreciated, because it went from 3 hours to contact trace a student down to about 5 minutes. And so it's nice to hear stories like that. Let me go back to, my other stuff's okay. And let me jump in and show you how that was done, because a lot of folks may not be aware of this. So here is that dashboard, okay, in Tableau desktop. If I go to dashboard actions, you can see that we have 2 URL actions, and you can see it's a URL action because of the little globy icon there. And there's a class guardian link and a bus guardian link. And if I select it, what it is it will go to a specified URL, all right? And in here you can put, and it's the URL of the dashboard on your Tableau server, all right? And you can pass all kinds of information to it. And so we have a bunch of filter settings up here. We want to make sure that when that sheet is re-rendered on the dashboard action, that all of these filter settings are set. So we pass all of those here. We do allow multiple values. So if you have multiple selected here and encode them, it just makes it easier to go through. And I actually do have a slide. I can show you here. This is what it looks like. So this is the URL. And what we do, because we distribute these to all of our clients, they're all districts, their URLs are all different. We actually have the URL stored in their Infinite Campus database, and we can read it out. And we have a data source that simply reads that URL and sets a parameter, because parameters can be sent all over. I love parameters for that reason. So this basically inserts that particular district's URL. And then this is the URL of the actual sheet on the Tableau server. And people may not know that if you simply take that URL and add .csv to the end of it, Tableau will spit a CSV file out at you. Put PDF on the end, it gives you a PDF. And then you can see all of the arguments that were passed. The student number is a parameter. The start and end date were also parameters, and the bus number as well. And that's actually a filter, and all of the filter values get passed. So that's how we did that. It makes it very easy then. One click, and you have the CSV file, and it is the CSV file of all the fields kind of hidden right there in that white on white treatment. I did just run into one issue with presentation here, and that is I need to get at this top here. Hold on a second. I'm going to stop sharing for a second and then restart because I can't get at the top of my screen to minimize that. There we go. Now I'll share again. Sorry about that, kids. Now we're back. So that is, and we built that and it got a lot of use. And then in the true vein of no good deed goes unpunished, we were asked, well, that's great. Now as we got further into the school year and people became a little bit more aware of what's going on, tracking students and things like that, they said, the state only wants us to report students that were sitting directly adjacent to the suspected student. And they said, we're all setting up seating charts within the SIS. Can you have the dashboard look at the seating charts and only select students that are sitting adjacent? At first I said, what are you, nuts? But then I said, you know, I just love a good challenge. And so we did go ahead and take this version and modify it to use seating charts. Now, caveats. Seating charts have to be regular grid arrays, okay? Because we basically map the locations to an IJK. You don't need to know all those details. You can see this is it in its basic form. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set like dates back in May, because this is, I'm still looking at last school year's data. So I'm going to go like May 12th to May 14th. And then I'm going to put in that same student, okay? And when I do that, it will now bring up, I've ditched all the bus information on the screen, but I can see there were 20 students that were adjacent together. And now if I hover, you can see not only the student, but you can also see the seating chart, because teachers can have multiple seating charts, and where they were relative to student. I made simply a series of 9 custom images that we used as custom shapes. And you can see the question marks means there's no seating chart. Have the ability to filter down. So again, most teachers have more than one. In this case, many of them didn't, because they'd never used seating charts and they really just started for this reason. So if I went, I just want to use the daily charts, right? Because those are the ones they were supposed to be using. Some districts, again, when you roll this out, say, yeah, that's good, but our seats are spread out enough, so I only need the kid in front and behind. So I can filter down now to what relative position. And then of course, some districts said, our seats are so close, I need to use 2 rows across or whatever. So now I've got these many courses, sections with seating charts. When I select one, I actually get to see the seating chart. Here's my target student, Dylan Abeg. Here he is, highlighted. And then I can see the students around, and then I can see those that are near them and reportable. And now you can see all of the question marks are gone. And you can just see here's Amy Mountain. And if I go here, she's to the left, and there it is to the left. So that was a groovy little thing. We still have the bubble plot to be able to then report those students out. And if we decide that we want to be able to look at more than one seating chart, then we can. So now if I go to here and I want to say, I want to look at that project work seating chart. Here's Dylan Abeg. It goes, it looks at that seating chart. And now the numbers have all changed because now the students around Dylan are different. So again, this one came out a little bit later. It was more of a data challenge for me. Anything else? I know many of our districts did use this. And again, we're appreciative of it. That really pretty much brings me up to the end, except for, again, and then one of the other things that we had to build was a staff contact tracing, because eventually you had staff showing up and then leaving school not feeling well. So you had to contact trace all the students. So this allowed for putting in a staff number, start and end date. And again, the ability here, course and section, because they would maybe be in for a couple of periods. So you only needed to track the teacher for a couple of periods. And then the same ability to export the students and get the CSV, and of course, no bus data because teachers don't ride buses. So that really brings me to the end. I'm going to, what do we have in the Q&A? Let me look. Are you using outline links to bring the workbook into IC? Yes, so this is everything that we do. It's just like many other student information systems. The product has the ability to create your own custom tools and links and things like that. And that's all we've done. We have one custom link that actually comes to a page for us, but all of these are actually just custom outline links or custom tools in the SIS that we have built it in. Any other questions?
So it looks like there's one in the chat. It says, how long has this been in progress? Oh, sorry, never mind. That's around the.
And like I said, hopefully this is all backward looking, right? Hopefully next year we can send our kids to school and not have to do this. But, you know, we'll see how that plays out. Any other? All right. Thomas, Stephanie, back to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Bill and Sam. Great presentations today. Also want to just quickly apologize to those of you that got the wrong Zoom link. We did quickly scramble and send out the correct one. We did record though. So if you did miss the beginning of Sam's presentation, we'll send out the recording afterwards. Just wanted to walk you guys through some upcoming events specific to K-12 that are happening the rest of this year and planned for next year. We do have a webinar coming up in August with AWS and Slalom. We'll be sending out a registration link for that. That will be with high ed and K-12 speakers. But the rest of this is K-12 specific. So as you can see, the K-12 user group, we're tracking to have this quarterly. So our next one we're hoping for would be September, and then January, April, July, similar cadence as we did this year. Something new that you'll see is that we are adding in workshops in between our user groups. We have heard from you in your survey. There's lots of interest in doing some things in between these user groups. So Thomas from Slalom, Stephanie from Plant Moran, they're going to leverage the feedback that we get from the survey that we're going to send out after today for what kind of workshops that you would like to see. So we encourage you to fill out the survey to kind of identify specific topics, different features, different things that you'd want to see in a workshop. And then if you do fill out the survey, we'll send you an invite to the workshops. Those are free of charge. And thank you for Slalom and Plant Moran for offering that up to our K-12 community. Also, one more thing on here is the Tableau Customer Conference. This is kind of a preview. Nothing has been announced specifically yet, but it is looking like it will be in November, most likely virtually again. But we will have an education track. That's what everything is looking like. So more details should be coming out in the next couple of weeks for all of you. And we're really excited. Yeah, and we'll share with everything once we have it. Just haven't been able to share it yet. And we'll obviously announce a lot more details on the September Tableau user group. So again, please fill out the survey that we send out after today. And I'm going to pass it over to Stephanie to close us out.
Perfect. Thank you, Cassidy. Make sure I'm not on mute here. As Cassidy alluded to, you're going to get that survey. And I know sometimes surveys are really hard to just take a few moments to pause and to provide that back. But we really, really are needing you to provide that feedback and honesty. There's a series of questions, and if you feel like those questions aren't addressing your need or your questions, or you have even more content that you would like to see that we didn't list out, feel free to reach out to Thomas or myself or even Cassidy. This is a group for you. We are helping facilitate it, but we need you to help participate in those feedback of those surveys. They are short and brief, so please take a few moments to fill those out. As always, you're going to get a copy of this PowerPoint, so you'll have links and these will be active so that you can go out and check out all of the great resources that Tableau has provided. You're going to be receiving a link to this recorded session. It does take a couple of days for it to post, so it won't be an immediate email right after this. But if you don't see something by next week, feel free to reach out to us in case that didn't come through. And at this point, I would just like to, again, to say thank you for all of those for joining us today, bearing with some of those technical glitches. We really value your participation, whether it's in chat or on the Q&A, or your willingness to be able to participate and present at this piece as well. So thank you. And then Thomas, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, just thanks again for everyone for attending. Also, just can't emphasize enough. I think I saw Cassidy say that there might be a lucky few who get some swag for participating in the survey. So maybe let that be an incentive right there. But just everyone have a great rest of your week, and just reach out to us if you have any questions.
Awesome. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.